All right, so I want to make a video updating everyone, getting right into it. Canada is up to just over 102,000 cases, 8,454 dead. Alberta, 44 new cases yesterday, 538 active, 36 in the hospital. Again, very, very, very comparable numbers. We had about 7,000 tests yesterday. So again, the numbers is pretty much same old as far as the numbers go. My guess, I mean, the active cases have clearly flattened out. We've been hanging steady in the active cases department for the last few days. My guess is within the next week that the active cases will start to trend back down, assuming the government doesn't increase testing. For all I know, they'll increase testing again, and the active cases will stay the same or maybe even go up a little bit. Um, which honestly, I hope they don't do, because that'll just create a bunch more panic and paranoia amongst people who think that this is still the doomsday virus. I think we're testing a lot of people. 8,000 people a day is a ton of people. I mean, anyone who wants to get a test can get a test, so there's no issues there. Like I said, there's not really a whole lot to worry about as far as that goes. The numbers out of other provinces, again, still pretty much the same. Ontario had another pretty good day for at least for them. They had less than 200 cases. Quebec, I think, is doing a little bit better, but I think Quebec has a ton of active cases still. I mean, you look at Western Canada as a whole, like 90% of the active cases are in Quebec and Ontario. So the idea of needing to keep things closed, other than very minor restrictions, um, there's no reason whatsoever. And the problem is that we're in what, stage two in Alberta. The problem is a lot of businesses still haven't opened, and a lot of businesses that have opened still have pretty heavy restrictions on them, which is something that I've been pointing out. Is that we're this isn't going to end. I mean, it's not going to end well. I think is the problem, is that eventually the government's not going to be able to give people free money and give businesses free money. I mean, they can't even maintain it at this point. I mean, the amount of debt that we have right now is insane. The government of Canada is literally going to go into more debt this year than it literally generates in revenue. And that's something that's insane. That's, again, for every dollar of that's spent by the federal government, or of things that are provided by the federal government, about half of that is coming through, or even a little more than half of that is coming through debt. And anybody with half a brain knows that that isn't sustainable. I think that I don't know what the Trudeau government strategy is, to be honest. I mean, there's one of two strategies. Number one would be call a snap election, hope you get more seats. And I think the only way that would work is if the Conservatives come out of this with a poor. I mean, if they came out of this with Mackay, I would definitely do that. Like, I would definitely do that. O'Toole's kind of in the middle. The other two are kind of wild cards, and they're not as well known. They're a little more outspoken. But I think outspoken in a good way in a lot of ways. But again, that's just what I've seen. I haven't delved too deep into them. Um, but that's kind of what I found. I mean, the other strategy for them is just continue to run massive deficits, and then call an election like 2 or 3 years from now, and just promise people more and more free stuff. But the problem with that is that the system will literally go belly up within the next decade or so, probably. I think we're going to come out of this. We're not going to recover out of this into a good economy. We're going to recover out of this into a poor economy. And I think the liberal solution to this will be just give people more and more free stuff just to keep their support. And that's not going to end up well in the long run. So talk a little bit about the states. Their death numbers, again, they're actually down a little bit from the day before. The numbers are up a little bit there, but again, those numbers are up from numbers that were literally like as low as they've been in like since March. So again, the numbers out of the states, still nothing to worry about. And again, the reason why I keep bringing those numbers up is that I wanted to provide more examples to kind of back up what I've been saying. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, but I mean, the way we'll be able to tell that I'm wrong is if active cases in Canada, I mean, especially deaths, go up, and deaths go up. Like, if we get multiple days where the states goes above 1,000 dying, then that will be some cause for concern. But again, they've had 10 15 days with over 2,000 people die of this. So again, just because they go over 1,000, it's not doomsday, we need to close everything down again. It's we need to be a little concerned. We need to take some precautions. And the simple solution to this has always been, and it still is, allow anybody who's below the age of 50 to 60 and healthy to go back to their normal life. It makes no sense to quarantine healthy people. Again, I can't stand all these people that try and always argue, well, we're the party of science. We believe in science, but yet they completely deny the science that quarantining healthy people makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. The science points to you quarantine the people that are at risk and you let everybody else go about their daily lives, because if you do that, you mitigate a large majority of the deaths, right? Like in Canada, what, like 3/4 of deaths are people over the age of 70, I think it is. And like 95% of the deaths are people over the age of 60. So it makes no sense to quarantine young people. The simple solution is you allow young people to go about their normal days. They'll build up antibodies, and then down the road you won't have to worry about it, because the vast majority of young people have antibodies, which means they're not going to spread it to older people down the road. So there's obviously a lot more that goes into it, but that's kind of just the simple, in a nutshell. Um, so the big story from yesterday, and it's been in the news for like the last couple of weeks, is this guy, Chief Alan Adham. He's from Fort McMurray, or at least the area. And he was arrested. I don't know exactly when. I think it was in March. And there's all this uproar about, oh, this is police brutality and how terrible it is, and they're traumatized. And as much as I think the cop did the one that came in at the end, overreacted a little bit, the reality is that this guy, he kind of was asking. In fact, I would say he was asking for it, for the simple reason that, so the reason they got pulled over was their tag or their license plate was expired. I assume it was their tag, and at least in the clip, the guy said, "Oh, why are you harassing us? We just got our truck back like a month ago or whatever." So I think the clear thing that happened there is that they didn't renew their insurance, or their license plate or whatever it was, and they got the truck back, or at least the very least they got off the last time under the guise of, yeah, you got to go renew that stuff, and they didn't do it. And this guy takes it as, oh, they're harassing me, and it's just such garbage. For starters, I couldn't stand to watch this guy on the news yesterday, because if you watch him in the clip, if he was trying to come off as more arrogant in that clip, like if I was literally saying that, when the cops pulled up and I went up to this guy, yeah, I'll pay you $10,000 or $100,000 to be as arrogant as you possibly can to this cop, I don't think he could have did a better job. Like, I don't think he could have did a better job. It was F this, F that, it was like, again, like he couldn't have made himself look any worse. And at least in my opinion. Go check out the video for yourselves. I think True North posted it, Global posted it, so it's not that hard to find. But the guy couldn't have made himself look much worse if he tried. The other big problem is that the CBC only posts a very condensed version of the video, which takes out a lot of context. The CBC, the context that you take from it is, if you just watch the CBC clip, is this guy just comes and decks and tackles him for no apparent reason. But the real reason that happened is that the guy spent a good 10 minutes mouthing off to the cop, being arrogant, being super arrogant, resisted arrest, all this kind of stuff. So again, the simple solution to this would be, buddy, just keep your mouth shut. Like, this guy just absolutely screams of entitlement and all this kind of stuff, thinks he's above the law. Like, that's a good way of putting it. So the simple solution was, buddy, just keep your mouth shut. Just pay the ticket and go on with your life. And the fact that charges were dropped against him, I think, is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Like, and it's for the simple reason too that this guy's a native. If he was white, they wouldn't have let him off. Let's just be honest about it. It's not racist. It's just flat out reality. And that's the big problem with this. And he says, oh, his wife is traumatized. Well, then just pay the damn ticket. Just pay the ticket. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. And that's the other problem too, is if like, this is the problem too with all this police brutality stuff, and why although it does exist to some degree, I don't have much sympathy for most of these people in most of these cases, because most of these people are resisting arrest. They're being arrogant and all that. I mean, you're literally asking for it. I mean, you have to see it from the other person's perspective. Like if I got pulled over for speeding and I got out of my car, um like this is the thing too, like how arrogant do you have to possibly be? Like everybody knows when you get pulled over you wait for the cop to come talk to you. Like this guy gets out of his car and starts mouthing off and all this garbage. Like of course you're just asking for trouble, man, buddy. Like again, this guy's a I don't have words for him. I don't have words for him. In my mind, he got what he deserved. um I think a better way of putting it is, did he deserve to get what happened to him happen? Not necessarily, but he was literally asking. He couldn't have did a better job to ask for it. When you do that kind of stuff to police, you're literally asking for it. You're begging for it. So again, I have no sympathy for this guy whatsoever, none whatsoever. So this is from Tom Quiggin, and I mean, right now we're canceling and we're taking down statues of anybody who was involved with slavery and racism in the past, but the Prophet Muhammad had a slave. I actually believe he had multiple slaves. Um, so why in the world are we not canceling the Prophet Muhammad? Why are we not, canceling Islam? Like, why are we not doing that? And again, it's for the simple reason that um, the left only believes in this kind of stuff when it benefits the left. If it benefits the left to take down statues, they'll do it. If cancel culture, or at least canceling person X, benefits the left, they'll do it. If canceling person A doesn't benefit the left, they won't do it. I mean, take Justin Trudeau. The guy wore blackface multiple times. Did any of these people support canceling and were not voting for him? No, I didn't see anybody, honestly, who didn't vote for the guy because of blackface. Like, I didn't hear of one person who said, yeah, I was going to vote for him up until blackface came out. But you look at down in the States, you had a governor, I believe, in like Mississippi or one of the Alabama who, stuff came out about him that turned out to be false, and he was ahead in the polls before that happened, and he ended up losing. So again, this is the thing too about the left too that I can't stand, is that they'll constantly accuse the right of being, oh well, you guys, you only care about bad stuff when it's the other side doing it, and that they're right to an extent, but it's not the same. It's not the same. The people on the right, as much as I disagree with them, they have a much higher moral and ethical standard than the left. The left has literally no moral and ethical standard whatsoever. And again, speaking of that stuff, this is from Charlotte Clymer. She's a far left person on Twitter. I don't even want to get into it, but so anyway, there are people calling for the statue of Lenin in Seattle to be taken down. And again, just listen to this person's response. She says, high pics of the Lenin statue in Seattle are being passed around among conservatives. A few quick notes. It's privately owned and situated on private property. It has in fact been frequently vandalized. Again, don't provide any evidence of that. And number three, Lenin was not a slave owner. You Confederate apologist. F word. So again, this is why things are so bad. In fact, Lenin was probably, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I would be very confident in saying Lenin was responsible for more deaths than all of the Confederates, all of the slave owners in the States combined. Even if you add up all the slaves. If you add up all the slaves that died, all the people that were enslaved in the States, I would bet a ton of money. Again, I don't even know these numbers off the top of my head, but I would bet money that Lenin was responsible for more deaths than slaves existed in the States at the time of slavery being abolished. I would bet money on that. And yet, in these people's minds, that's perfectly fine. Again, that's perfectly fine, and for the simple reason that my hypothesis of if it benefits the left, we don't care. That's exactly what they say too. Is that, if millions of people died in the name of communism or socialism, yeah, we don't care. But if a handful of people, like nine unarmed black men, are killed by police every year, that's the biggest issue of our time. We need to literally shut down. That's the biggest story of our time, basically. Even though, again, over 100 million people were killed in the name of communism and socialism in the 20th century, but you have no sympathy for those people? Like it's absolutely insane. It's just beyond insane the kind of stuff that's going on. So, and the other thing too is that it's on private property. Again, you're a communist. You're apologizing for a communist, and yet you're defending it based off the fact that you think it's on private property. Communists don't. I mean, anyone with half a brain knows this, but communists don't believe in the concept of private property, so it doesn't matter. And again, the fact that it's been vandalized again, it's good. I mean, of all the list of statues in the world that should be torn down, that's got to be in the top five. Like that's got to be in the top five. Like Lenin, Stalin, Mao. I mean Hitler. I mean those are probably the top four. In fact, I pretty much guarantee those are the top four. Um, but yet you're defending that kind of stuff. But yet you're going to turn around and take down a statue of some Confederate soldier who's responsible for the deaths of like 100 people, if that. Like it's beyond insane. It's beyond insane. This is from Clay Travis. Now he points out Aunt Jemima's family is angry that Aunt Jemima was canceled. And again, we're at the point that cancel culture is so bad that the people that are getting canceled don't even support it. Like that's how far off the deep end we've went. And that how in the world is Aunt Jemima considered racist? Like if anything, it's a good thing. I believe she was one of the first black millionaires, if not the first, in the states. I think in like the 1920s that she had like some cooking or something company and she sold it and became a millionaire. I don't know exactly how the story went, but she was, yeah. I mean, it's if anything, it's a success story. If anything, again, it's a success story. But again, the leftists can't have that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is basically Paul Joseph Watson responding to AOC being all up in arms about the Trump rally. And he says suddenly her concern for the virus returns when Trump supporters congregate. I guess that last 3 weeks of BLM mass gatherings didn't happen. Fraud. Again, this is the. I mean, I pointed this out at nauseum, but again, I want to keep pointing it out because there's still so many people out there who I see that. I mean, they're a clear minority, but they still somehow rationalize in their mind that again opening your small business, wanting to go to the gym, wanting to get a haircut, and again not that you care more about a haircut than saving lives. It's because you know that the person giving the haircuts needs to cut hair to feed themselves and their family. Same with the gym, same with every small to medium sized business. Again, that these people think that, oh, you can't possibly go to a business with 10, maybe 20, 30 people inside, but you can go to rallies with tens of thousands of people, for weeks on end. Like again, it makes such little sense, it's not even funny. So anyway, that's the video for today. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got linked in the description. Again, appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe. And last couple of things, check me out on Twitter and check me out on BitChute. It's very important that you support people that are speaking the truth. So please check out all those links in the description.